You want to know the problem with America today? There's no one speaking up for the fucking working class anymore. There's no one speaking up for just the average American. Fuck Republican, fuck Democrat. There's nobody speaking up for just the average worker. Let me tell you something. I just got fired. Well, technically I quit. Basically what happened is they hired me at 11. I left for the winter. But technically I quit because I fell on the way to work. Fell in a puddle, and I said, I don't need this job. I'm on disability. I have epilepsy. So I have to walk to work and everything, and it was in the middle of winter. It was like middle of November. There was snow on the ground. As I was crossing the street, I fell in a puddle, covered myself. I was soaked, and I was just like, fuck this. So I quit the job, and turns out that they marked that as really quitting me. But I had gotten hired into the deli, and there was some confrontation. So, this super old lady decided to yell at me because she didn't like how I was doing the dishes. And there's no way you can respond to an old lady that doesn't... There's no way I could respond and yell back at an old lady. I just stood there and took it. The next morning, I called my boss, told him that, I didn't want to work in that department anymore. I like the store, but I didn't want to work in that department anymore. And he said, fine, I transferred me over to a cashier, and there was no mention of lowering my pay or anything. And when I left for I had left for the winter and everything after I fell in the puddle, but when I came back in the spring, because they had asked me to come back, initially I'd quit after I fell in the puddle, but they needed my help, so they asked me to come back in the spring. I could just take the winters off, be a seasonal worker, and that was fine. But apparently they had fired me, then rehired me for $1 less and never told me. So since the beginning of March, I'd been working there for $1 less than I thought. And it appears that they didn't break the law because they did hire me for that. It just... And that's the problem I want to get to, is the problem today in America. No one cares about the working class anymore. There's no one there to speak for us. And I think that's about time. So how would you guys feel about the next president being someone from working class? Someone like me. I can tell you, I'm on disability with epilepsy, so I'm on full Social Security. And I've been balancing that with a job, doing my best, balancing how much I can earn from this, while, not having a seizure, because stress does trigger my seizures. But also, continuing with my health care and everything, because my medication, according to the bills, costs over $10,000 a month. So I have to stay on this. Plus, if I worked anymore, it'd probably trigger a seizure, because they're triggered by the stress. So I'm just trapped in this little box here, and I'll tell you day by day what happened. On Saturday, I got a letter in the mail from Social Security asking for an update in my information. It was a standard thing, and they needed some different paperwork for me, including some work, reports for how much I earn in a month, whatever it's called. I'm blanking on it. They needed my earnings report for a month, so I had that printed out and everything. And upon looking at it, I realized I was earning $1 less. And I was like, that's not how much I agreed to. So I went and I quit immediately. I quit on the terms that they pay me my back dues, which would be about $500, and then now raise me to $12 an hour. I was at 11, you knocked it down to 10 without saying anything, so give me 12 as an apology. Give me that, and I'll return. I think that's a reasonable request for what had happened. And they didn't call, nothing. I guess I just don't work there anymore. I'm supposed to be there right now. And so I'm sitting here, I'm like, how did America get to this point? I'm a disabled person going to work here, and they can just, afford to, and they're just allowed to pay me less than, to them, I'm not worth $12 an hour. And what does that say about America? When they can just say to a disabled person, oh, no, we're not gonna Because here's the thing: is that this is really this is what matters with this is why this matters, is that I'm on disability, so I'm limited in how much I can earn before it affects my health care, because my health care is essential, right? So it's been a bit of a balancing act. They lowered me for $1 without telling me. So me and the customer service there have all been, closely watching each month to make sure I don't go over. And we just found out all of that was for no reason, because they had lowered me by $1 without saying anything. So all this, like, I literally have like a calendar up in my fridge where I've been tracking the hours and everything. And it turns out it was all for no reason, because they just... And that shouldn't be allowed. So this is my idea. What if someone from the working class got elected president? I'd be friendly with all the other countries and everything, but my focus would be making things fair again. Fuck Make America Great Again. Let's make America fair. Not even fair again, because it's never been fair for everybody. There's always been somebody getting the bad side of it. And my goal would be trying to make things better overall. Better for the average American. Because that's what I think we need. Because honestly, with how low the pay has gotten, minimum wage is barely above slavery at this point. Because, I mean, back in the slave days, they would at least give you, housing, and they fed you and all this and that. Now, they hawk you $10 an hour and say, be back tomorrow. That's, by the way, I'm not at all trying to say that today's work is slavery. That's not what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is that today's workers are not treated fairly. Not given enough credit and not given enough pay for how much time we're giving to these companies. We give them 40, 60 hours a week, and they give us just enough to get back for our next shift, while they take home millions. And that's okay? That's fair? How? How is that okay? How is that okay that I can take home $10 an hour while my boss is rolling in millions? That shouldn't be allowed. That's how I feel about this economy, and it's so bullshit. So I feel like the only way things could get fixed again is if we had somebody genuinely from the working class get put in charge of the country again. Not again, but put in charge. I can't talk. I'm so passionate about this. I really fucking feel this. Get somebody in charge of this country who knows its real struggles. Because I'll tell you, I've lived in California, Oregon, Idaho, Nevada, Illinois, and now Pennsylvania. I've lived all over this country in multiple different demographics as far as income and everything. And I lived in Stockton, California, where if the gunshot isn't on your street, the conversation probably won't even stop. And now I'm in rural Pennsylvania. I've seen a lot of this country. And there's one thing that's maintained true no matter where I went. Minimum wage workers get treated like shit. And that would be my goal. To make America good for the average American. Everybody's focused on, let's go further with this technology, or, we need to... Nobody's focused on making things better for actual Americans. They just want to coerce us into getting our votes. Make America great again, or fucking all these things. It's ridiculous. So, I'm not going to focus on any sort of line unless one catches on. But I really think, what if someone from the working class got put in charge, and they got to put our goals, what's important to us, as what's important to America? Because, honestly, I can tell you right now, if I were put in charge, first thing I would do is $15 becomes federal minimum wage. Companies can handle it how they want. That would be the first thing I would do. $15 federal minimum wage. And it would only go out from there. The schools would get better. I would figure out how to do free public transportation. Anything I could think of to try to make things better for the average American. Because I don't want to make America great again. I want to make America happy for the first time ever. Do you guys think that's a good idea? I just ranted for 10 minutes about it. Enjoy.